business is we typically go through our reorganization on an annual basis, and we will proceed right to that if anyone has any questions, or we'll accept nominations for chair.
I nominate Dan Jewell as chairman.
I'll second that.
All right, I mean, that seems like it's a unanimous thing. Is there, we got a nomination and a second for the chair for Mr. Jewell. All in favor?
Aye.
I accept.
Thank you.
I don't know how many more years you're gonna get out of me, but we'll take it 1 year at a time. Talk about the reflection. We have nominations for vice chair of the finance committee. Currently, it's Leanne Spring.
That's good. She's doing a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Make a motion to nominate Leanne.
So we have
I second that.
a motion and a second for the nomination of Leanne Spring for vice chair of the finance committee. All in favor?
Aye.
And our final position is secretary, which is currently being handled by Zach. So we're open to nominations for secretary for finance committee. I nominate Zach again. You've done a stellar job.
Second that.
So we have a nomination and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that was easy enough. We have our committee position set for the budget year here. And I thank everyone, for getting together and kicking off the budget cycle. A few things I want to go over today, and one of them is I met with Tammy a couple weeks ago, and she got this letter out to the town in preparation for the FY 26 budget, as well as we have just an idea of a potential schedule for our upcoming meetings. I can say I do have some comments I want to add here is, after going through the special town meeting and last year's budget cycle, we kind of had a lot of stuff going on the last 18 months, a lot of noise, right? We had turnover in the TA department. There's a lot of noise going on within the town, and I feel like, want to step back and reflect on, the miss we had on the budget for, FY 25, and try to do our best to prevent that miss again here in FY 26. And I feel we need to get, one thing that we probably got away from last year is meeting with each of the departments individually, and some of them submitted their paperwork up into the town administrator. I feel like I would like us to get back to the meeting with all the departments, understand their needs to ensure that we're properly prepared to offer recommendations for the voters of the town, and to have due diligence and provide that objective opinion, so that way the voters at town meeting are able to make a reasonable decision, because it's going to be a tight cycle. All right, we have some stuff working against us this year, and we can talk about that. But I do want to open it up just a question for all the committee members to see, if anyone has any input on what you think we can do better for the coming budget cycle.
I think just knowing the bottom line number, which we did not really touch upon last year. I think it got away from us. And so knowing
the
what
levy
the,
numbers.
I'm sorry, what
The levy.
yes, like
The
what
levy
is the
limit,
levy
yeah.
number, and so that we are aware,
Right.
and keep that in mind.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah, I think one of the big contributing factors too was the projected revenues from property taxes, right? And those weren't quite as close as what the projections were, so maybe looking at those projections this year and making sure that they're achievable.
Right.
I think you hit it on the head. I don't think last year, over the past 3 years, we've seen fewer and fewer people come in here. And, we just see a piece of paper and not an explanation behind it. I'd like to see everybody. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything? So, yeah, I think these are all great ideas, and projections is something that we really haven't done well, like forecasting, we haven't done well as a town in years past, right? How would you say we're prepared for forecasting this year, Tammy?
I'm learning as we go right now, right? So I'm gonna let you guys lead the way and show me,
Okay,
so.
all right.
I think that, certainly the select board is very into monitoring closely if the supplemental budget that's currently under consideration by the governor, the governor has rolled out some stuff, not much is going to help the towns, some is gonna help schools, not a bad thing, some is gonna help regional transportation, a good thing, okay, so that's a piece that's going to be in the supplemental. The supplemental supposedly is gonna go pushing through the House and the Senate with no changes from what the government recommended, supposedly, that's our word on the street. We also know that the governor has made adjustments down in funding schools. Not a good thing. That we don't think will stand. Our town will be involved, there's the school district involved with the coalition for, with a whole group of MASS, the Superintendent's Association, the School Committee Association, a whole crowd of us pushing for, you gotta fund special ed, they gotta fund it, and they don't fund it. And what happens is, what happens, the school comes looking for us, okay? But in the schools, what they do is they just cannibalize themselves. They have to spend the money that's allocated for specialized programming for special needs children. They have to pay 100% of that transportation. It's supposed to be reimbursed through the state. The state says, we don't have enough money. Well, that doesn't mean we get to say to the student, we're bringing to Crotchet Mountain every day, sorry, but we're not going to, participate in your program anymore. We don't get to do that. And so the schools are really, 234 school districts will get zero in Chapter 70 increases from the state. We're one of them. We think we're, continuing to work on that. The governor has this year we got a minimum of $104 per student. She's knocked it down to 75. That's not a good thing for us. So we have many senators and reps. There's 200, districts. They can't sit around anymore and say, it's just those regions. Oh, it's just Western Mass. It's all of them now. And so some people, including Quabbin being one of them, has not had an increase in Chapter 70 for almost 20 years because they have declining enrollment. And now it's 234 districts that have declining enrollment. So there's some good news and some scary news on the schools. And schools is a big, big thing. And this budget, as well as in, the budgets across the Commonwealth. So we're on top of that one. So,
Yeah.
So maybe-
I do want to
Yeah,
so regional dispatch, I did get a few budgets in that came through, and just to give you a few ideas, regional dispatch is up 6.6%. Our health insurance, we had met with them today, we're looking at very high digits, like up to 14% plus. So we're gonna be really looking into that, and regional retirement is also in double digits. So our, just amongst those three categories, I can tell you that those are gonna be very high.
trying to go up.
Very high, yeah.
You had said Dan asked about projection of income, on forecasting that.
Yeah,
Wouldn't we just use the last year?
So-
What was it, my question is really, what was it last year? What was our total,
so I'd have
on
to,
revenue?
I'll have to look at that for you, but you're right, I think what we are gonna have to do, and I'm sure Dean will guide us on that, is probably go with what we had last year, because we couldn't even sustain what we actually have put on there right now, right? So with that being said, we are gonna have to backtrack to see where we go, because our budget, obviously
Is-
couldn't handle it at that time, so.
Did we used to receive like a revenue report? Like a spreadsheet or something that
We
was
did
sent
get
to
revenue,
us?
we were getting revenues, not as frequently. I think it was like
Like a
quarterly, yeah, it's
Once I
quarterly,
can
yeah.
get to that,
Yeah.
Tim.
And I know when Jesse, from the assessor's office, usually, when he comes and presents, he usually brings some,
Yeah.
numbers on new growth and
We
stuff.
did do really, see, that we did do really well with, we did an extra $30,000.
New growth.
In new growth, so he was working really hard. We ended up getting $9 million altogether, but. so
Yeah.
That was.
I'm not sure if we're gonna see that type of growth in
I don't know.
'26.
I really believe FY '26 is gonna be a very difficult year.
Yeah.
So you would say you would assume the same revenue numbers last year
Yes.
as we have for this year's budget?
Yes,
I would caution though, we use $100,000 out of the ambulance reserve fund.
we do.
have to put that back.
Do you have to put that back in this year's budget?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we have to, and we also are,
Have a fire truck.
we have a fire truck coming that was approved by our town legislator of annual town meeting, and that's gonna have a price tag of $175,000
Yeah.
per year.
I didn't think it was that high.
Estimated, it's up there.
It's estimated, I think it's
thought it
estimated.
was about $100,000 per year, because of the fact that, but I don't know, it's in the.
175 and 100, there's a big difference.
It's,
It's,
Well, it's a 7-year lease agreement.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have a
lease.
lease purchase agreement that what we're trying to do is to take a look at that lease purchase agreement and
Yeah.
talk with bankers and say, how can we restructure the debt?
Yeah.
Because the lease purchase agreement says, link, 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 link. You have to pay it, it's this X many years. And so you and I know the capital, use of that fire truck is, none of us are gonna be sitting here, right? That's gonna be 25 years from now. And we're probably not gonna, some of the youngsters aren't gonna sit here, some of us aren't gonna be here. But if we can restructure that debt, that's huge. We have to look at our debt, our debt load and see what we can restructure. And what we need is the help from, for example, somebody like Unibank comes in here and, they have a bid on it if we are able to restructure. We just don't know if we're locked into a lease purchase agreement that we can't get out. We think we might not be, but we're not sure, because we didn't pay the original $40,000 or something, so we'll see. So I think we should restructure that debt. And we should look, obviously, I mean, nobody wants to hear this either, but we should really look to debt exclude, fire, whatever it is, and make a case for it. Because even little New Braintree never buys a piece of equipment and doesn't debt exclude it. It's not this taboo thing. And we did win the debt exclusion for the $172 worth of capital that was sitting around. So that's a good thing. If we can get that off, that would be restructure debt and also see if we can get it on, debt exclusion.
Yeah, you bring up a real good point. Would we be able to, for either our next meeting or, in February at least, get an update on the debt schedule and see
That'll be
with the
good.
calendars
Yeah.
to see what's
Yeah.
gonna fall off?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the Rebels Lane is close, the Common Project is very close. I think that could come off this year. And so some of those will be, we can make the case for, put some off, put some on.
Yeah.
Right.
So I know, there's not, I mean, we could do a lot of capital work around here, we could put HVAC systems in, we could do all that stuff that we really need to do, but we really need to have a plan and, take a look at, how we could sandwich in debt, and debt exclude it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this is my 4th cycle, maybe I'm encroaching my 5th, I don't even know. Time flies. But I know a few years ago, we had, a capital plan that was pushed out to like FY '25 or '26, but there really hasn't been a lot of work done to that. And, there's risk there. Right, we know the fire department's fairly well off. They got a few new pieces of apparatuses. I think I read in the paper that you were able to secure a grant for a new pickup truck for the fire department, which, hey, great job on that. It's awesome, awesome work.
Good, thank you.
Well, maybe it comes. Hopefully it comes. So that's good.
And
You know,
we have substantial, Chapter 90, and I think Tana can have alluded to that. We have got substantial Chapter 90. We have, I think, a sophisticated plan that's being put together by the new DPW guy as far as what's going in the pavement and what's going in equipment,
Okay.
over a period of time.
We actually have a plan at the DPW.
We have a plan.
We do.
Wow,
We have a plan.
I'm
It's
impressed.
working really well.
And I think I just read recently there's this proposal to increase Chapter 90 funds.
Yes, there is.
There is,
Yes, there is.
they mentioned
Good
it
news
as
for us.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we haven't spent some of the previous, let's say, chapter 90, in our hiatus, our hiatus period. So that's stuff we're gonna be putting, into equipment. One problem with the kind of equipment we need, everything's 400 days. You can't just drive up to some place and say, I want one of those. And, they unload it and
Yeah, not for brand new at least.
no.
No, on this fire truck, so I was here, I heard this 175K per year, but I heard 100 also. So are those rough numbers?
Those are rough.
We're gonna be in
Yeah, as-
between, we're gonna be in
Definitely
between
gonna be
those two?
between.
The total cost of it is $700,000, okay? Then add whatever interest rate we're gonna add.
Well, that was another 300,000, so you're at $1 million in rough math, right? 7 divided by a million,
7 years.
We're saying a piece of capital like that, that's 30 years, 25 years, we should be making a debt schedule that makes more sense. And it's really difficult to know where inflation's gonna take us, let's face it, when we were doing the Robles Lane roof, take 100 years, who cares, we're living, giving us money. So, we'll have, but with good bank, with a good bank does, Unibank does a lot of debt stuff for municipalities and so forth, so they can work with us and, give us some really insight. And if we do, go to a bond. Go to a bond of several things that, but you don't go to a 20-year bond like Collins Center had us do. Pickup trucks
yeah.
with it. No.
Yeah, and an ambulance that's ready for scrap and we're still money on it.
But the nice thing is, we did get an ambulance, unfortunately, it was an accident, but we did get an ambulance on ARPA.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's good. We got a couple of times we did cruises on ARPA. Unfortunately, ARPA's gone, and so we have to.
Opera was, the town got a nice little windfall from the opera funds and were able to secure some apparatuses and the playground gone in and, yeah.
The Douglas Lane parking lot and all that stuff.
Uh,
And that you did a big fix on the library chimneys.
Mhm.
So we did, do some of those things. We did buy a used Mack truck, out of ARPA too, for the highway department and so forth.
Any conversation in the town, the last time we met here, we used the word furlough for not backfilling jobs. We know some jobs have to get filled, but I noticed we have 2 police officers have resigned, and there's an ad posted looking to hire. Like,
Well,
any
in-
talk
in
about
my-
not hiring those jobs right
In my
now?
conversations with the chief, our plan is as follows. We are gonna go to the district, probably regional, we're gonna say, you're paying for the school resource officer.
Yeah, okay.
That means 5 towns are gonna pay for it, but that
Yeah.
does mean, technically, that person can't go over to Douglas Lane, because that's not, because.
It's not regional.
Well, because
Yeah.
that's, because everybody else has a school resource officer that goes to the elementaries. We use the one because we pay that whole freight up there. So we're thinking we could take maybe 25,000 and work it so that we could still get to Douglas Lane. And obviously, if there was ever any need,
Huh.
those people will just put wherever we need them.
Mhm.
So we're thinking, Robin's probably gonna go, but we can't support 5 towns that, you just let them all pay a piece of that officer.
Hmm.
And what will happen is, see, everybody wants to be in charge of the person, but they don't want the school to be in charge, and the school does not want to be in charge of deploying police. So when all 5 towns pay for it, the chief will be saying who's in charge. So they're gonna have to sit down and they're gonna have to, talk about what the school resource officer is gonna do, 5 towns, but that's up to the chiefs to do that. And probably, they'll probably resist, but we're gonna have to say, we just can't, you have to help us. So we're gonna potentially look for 1, okay, which would be, we used to have 1.5 off the books. But what has to happen is the way in which they manage okay, if you wanna have 24/7,
Yeah.
2 on every shift, okay, someplace now they have 3. Okay, during the day shift, there's 3 people, and we probably can't afford that. We probably can't afford it, and I'm not gonna tell the chief how to deploy, but he said he'll die on the hill with with two on shift, because he said, it's just too dangerous not to do
Yeah.
that.
I was talking to somebody who's a grant writer for a police department in a bigger city, and they were telling me that if the money's cut out of the budget and they can't backfill, there are temporary federal grants that they can apply for that would cover it for 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
So, if,
Something to look
yeah.
at. But at any rate, so people are very aware, I think, of where we're at and the fact that there's gonna have to be some adjustments in staffing patterns. And, it's really hard to adjust staffing patterns here because there's almost nobody here. I mean, we've got one treasurer, you know, what's gonna do with that? Reduce hours, and it's really tough, so.
Yeah, and that's some of the, you know, the challenge of the finance committee members is, you know, when we have the departments, like, we gotta ask these questions, like, you know, are you able to sustain your department running as it is? Look at the spending and the budgets, see, you know, is there a place to cut? You know, because when, the letter that Tammy sent out basically was, you know, provide us with two budgets. You know, one is level funding, right, matching the funds for this year, and the other is more so your operational needs budget, right? And, you know, just right here, if regional dispatch is coming in at 6.5% over, they were already over, you know, health insurance, you know, 14%, retirement 10%. We, you know, barring debt exclusion for the fire truck, we kind of have to plan. Right now, that has to go in the budget, right? That's what the town voted for. Even though the finance committee, we were against that, and overwhelmingly were turned against on that, but we have to figure out how to pay for that, because the town purchased a fire truck with essentially no real method to pay for it, right? Off of that boat, and we have to figure that out, and that's gonna have to be put into, I'm guessing, the fire department's budget, correct? It's gonna come out of their portion, and hopefully we can come to some other resolution before that, but that's part of, like, we have to incorporate that, like, here we go, here's the number. And it's gonna be probably one of the most challenging budget cycles and budget season, you know, budget preparations. And it's not just the town of Barre, it's other towns in the area as well, but FY '26 is gonna be a challenge. To make it under the levy limit with everything we have against us going right now.
I mean, we might just be saying by the time, we get close to it, it's either, if you want a level services budget, if you want what you have now, I can't fathom, unless there's some minor coming from the state, how you're gonna do it without debt, with not only debt exclusion, but potentially an override. And maybe people will go without for a while, but I think that they're kind of used to what they get, and it's really hard to say, well, we can't fund it.
Yeah.
But,
We'll know for certain in a couple months, you know, once we get everybody in here and all the numbers
well,
in.
you know, the other thing is, we've got, you know, some contracts that we've, had, and we are able to attract people. We've attracted good people for, I think, down at the DPW, I think we lose a fire person, but we seem to be able to, get somebody to replace. But you and I both know, I'm entering with, I think it's next Wednesday, I start with the fire department on a new contract. And I know that there's somebody out there who's saying, can we dream? He knows it's not gonna be, okay, no raise. We can't compete with anyway to keep our employees. It's really tough. So we have to pay, and we probably have to provide, and I don't know how you provide less services in the fire department.
I mean, it's primarily, it's on call, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have to provide mutual aid, especially, and think about it.
That's a big thing.
Okay, the town of New Braintree has no ambulance.
Sure.
The town of Hardwick has no ambulance. The town of Peterson has no ambulance. Guess who does? And you are required to provide mutual aid. And yes, if you pick up the right patient, you get a good piece of change from the insurance company. If you pick up a Medicaid person, a person even on Medicare, without good private, complementary insurance or supplemental insurance, it's it's not paying the freight to bring your vehicle up and do your thing. We're really lucky with Peterson because they go to Athol a lot more than they come to us. But New Braintree and Hardwick have a very, good contract for, using our ambulance services. And I think West Brookfield also does a piece of Hardwick and so on, but we're not making enough money on them, and, you have to almost say, as our costs go up to run our ambulances, we have to charge them more base money.
100%.
Yeah.
Are we fixing the one that was in the accident?
Actually, we're warring with the insurance companies about, they're gonna.
Of course.
Yeah, they've gone through, and I still don't know if they've totaled it or not, I think it's totaled, you can believe that, but Verizon truck.
The one that hit the Verizon truck?
Yeah, the Verizon truck hit it,
Yeah.
thankfully, better than never run. And, so what I understand is, we're saying to Verizon, no, you're not gonna sit around and wait for, another year to get an ambulance. But you guys have to pay for us to have an ambulance, you have to rent something for us. And so that tug of war is going on.
And they're probably self-insured, right, Verizon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would
I'm sure
imagine.
I
they're
worked there for
sure.
10
years.
I don't think that Verizon's worried about money.
Yeah.
They just, are like typical places. It's their insurance company and our insurance company. And so we do have a local person who's a very astute person in this area. So he's going to be working with the chief to see if we can put some extra pressure on it. Because we need at least a new vehicle that's comparable.
So the frustrating part about that day is, here we have this dilemma that's gonna cost a lot of money because we didn't spend the money that we needed to on that day. Like, the roads weren't salted. There was, had the roads been salted, like, I had a conversation tonight with the DPW superintendent where he was talking about the last snowstorm, and he said, yeah, I probably should have salted a little bit more. I was trying to save the town a little bit of money. Like, we're trying to save a couple $1,000s here and there on salt, and it's causing tons of accidents out there, which is causing.
Tons of accidents.
Yeah, I don't think
We
there's
had
tons.
the one that's.
My wife
down-
got into an
listen,
accident that
I
day
have
in
lived
December.
with- Okay, I've spent more time riding roads in the worst weather ever, looking at 4 o'clock in the morning and saying, am I sending those buses or not, right? Because I never trusted anybody who when I called them in the morning, they said, oh, they're good, Maureen, don't worry about Howard's Crossing, don't worry about this, don't worry about Howard's, and I found out, yeah, I better worry. And I will tell you that I was out on the roads that morning, and going down Howard's Crossing was fine, but there were icy spots. And when that Verizon truck, saw the ambulance was way over the side, jacked on his brakes, and I say, that's unusual for a truck driver, they're usually far more stupid.
He was new.
Okay, jacked on his brakes and just couldn't stop if he had it. The great big truck smashed into it just right. Fortunately, the patient who was with us was fine, thankfully, and we were able to get another ambulance and transport. But to say it was only the road's fault, probably not. It was probably the driver and the roads. It's always, that is, and it is when you get to know the roads, because these guys are all new, sanding and salting. Okay, there is a place, you are speeding, you start at the top of that hill, by 3/4 of the way down, it really gets steep. And people don't realize that it's really steep, and they're coming into a corner, and some guy's coming, it's a bad place. So I'm certainly not gonna say that they were bad roads.
They weren't salted at all.
Well, I disagree, they were
Yeah,
salted.
no, they weren't salted. I was out
Well,
that
this
day.
is not the place to have that conversation right now. Yeah.
It doesn't matter, it's water over the dam.
DPW
Yeah,
meeting.
you can't change what's been done. Yeah, right, so we've got the schedule to review. So similar, this is very, honestly, it's very similar to a year's past schedule in terms of trying to level load the larger departments throughout. I originally had the Quabbin coming on the 22nd, then I realized that was a school vacation week and probably wasn't the best for everyone involved. So we, really, we could meet as a committee on that. I actually won't be around that week, but, the committee could meet if there's a snow day or a cancellation or folks can't make it. We can leave that open, right? Or even meet in an off week if absolutely need be. We've done that before too. Does anybody have any concerns or comments or questions on this timeline?
Other than come up here to the 11th.
Okay,
So we won't meet again until the 11th after today?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and then yeah, I don't think there'll be a need for us to meet until we start meeting with the departments. And then we'll get, if we can get some of this other pieces. Our meetings are probably gonna run a little bit longer, considering the situation and, we're taking a deeper dive into some of the other numbers with, current capital debt exclusions, trying to figure out what folks' budgets are gonna come in at. And really just trying to interview our counterparts here, our colleagues, to understand their needs and provide the best information for the voters come town meeting. How about you, Sam? You have anything? You've been quiet tonight. No?
Taking a nap.
I mentioned this before, I don't know him well, but there's a guy by the name of Ram Das, but I don't know him well. And he said something about the quieter you are, the more you hear.
That is true. Does anybody else have anything they want to go over or discuss, or?
Did we finish the letter?
The letter did go out.
I wanted to talk about,
Sure.
I like this.
Yeah, absolutely,
It was
absolutely.
a good letter. It was better than we've had in the past, I thought.
Yeah, I thought it was a great
lot
letter.
of times. But I'm confused about the level funded budget, this reflect funding levels provided in the fiscal year 2025 budget. So is that the corrected budget or
So-
the original budget?
So the level funding budget would be our FY '25, that'd be the one that would be level funding,
Which one?
the one we're working on right now.
The corrected.
The corrected one, because we had an original
Yes,
budget that
yes,
that we
yes.
blew.
Yep.
Yes, you got it,
So we're gonna use the corrected budget.
yes.
Yep.
So when you did that, you looked at what departments that's gonna affect some departments more than others if they use that lower number. So there's gonna be some kind of shifting, I would imagine,
I would assume
because
that
some
will be adjusted.
the buildings took a hit when the fire salary.
DPW,
the,
80,000.
So somehow the budgets, individual budgets, if they use those as the starting point, what they have now, after the correction, it might be a little hard to rebalance
Absolutely,
the,
Yeah.
totally agree.
in looking at it, the best budget that we didn't overrun the '24 budget. I thought the 2024 budget was a good one.
24, yeah, but the thing with the 24 budget is some of the numbers are wrong,
Right.
right? Like dispatch.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when-
Yeah.
That's when we had the
But as
went
far
through
as-
that,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
interim. And, Jessica was here, and then, there was some, I'm just gonna say it's probably some errors in the numbers, because what was presented wasn't, and it was kind of hidden, right? But, regional dispatch came in, I think it was like a 15-20% miss,
Yeah,
maybe even
36,000.
higher, $36,000. Animal control came in, under. And then when we went back and looked at it, it was
Yeah.
like, it was kind of a mess. It was sloppy, in hindsight, right? It wasn't, we hit the numbers, but we didn't hit free cash in '24.
Yeah,
And,
Remember, you had 3 different town administrators.
yeah.
yeah, I know.
'24 was a tough.
I know.
So, I mean, I think,
In the previous years, we were holding the line pretty hard,
yeah,
I think. And then we started going up, and we can't go up at the same rate we've been. And this 2025 budget just looked, we should have been trimming that down, I think, because we were,
I don't even know where, it was hard to even trim down what we did, so.
and that's
Right.
the ultimate
problem.
challenge is, where the town has to make, is probably have to make that hard decision, right? That's.
It's gonna be hard, and they're gonna make it based on this, so they're gonna base it on their budgets now, not that original one.
So this number you see here in the bottom line, this is the adjusted budget, right? Because all, like you see, like the 15K came out, it's amended in the budget here. So all the amendments are in the budget here now.
The 24.
That we had plus the 100,000 fields reserve.
So when you take that original number, that 14.5, and then subtract that 243, that's gonna get you to the amended number.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, just take the bottom lines here.
We think it might be worth our effort to really try to work with the town to understand the meals tax. Because
Yeah.
there's revenue there that doesn't necessarily cost me and you, not that it would be a big deal, but, to try to get the top bill, we were talking about trying to get RPM, I mean,
Even when it does cost us, it doesn't cost us. It's like
well, I know, but I just think.
36 cents on $100 or something. It's
But
not-
you have to get the public, because
Hmm.
we have to go to J&J, and we have to say, it won't change anything, there's the tax thing, you just, when you push this, and the person pays the extra 75 cents on any $100 they pay.
Yeah.
And so, we pay it a lot of places we go ourselves, we just don't know we even pay it. And there's
Yeah.
also, I don't wanna bring this one up, but there's also a drinks tax. And
That you'll be
you know,
taxed.
I don't know if that's beer or not,
Yeah.
but when you look at that, you say, because it doesn't mean people aren't gonna go to Stone Hall. It doesn't mean people aren't gonna come and rent whatever it is, Harding Allen Estate to have a wedding. It really doesn't.
That one seems targeting, like that particular one, because like everybody sells food, but the majority of the drinks are sold at one place in
Yeah,
town.
but
and,
it
like,
doesn't cost him anything.
Yeah.
And I don't believe.
I get that.
And I don't believe it would cost him,
Yeah.
people going there.
Yeah.
I mean, you could drink $100 of beer for 75 cents.
I look at the amount of mistakes that we make and the wasted money, and if we could just stop wasting the money. Like, I thought it was a good deal when you bought a 10-wheeler for $45,000, right? But now it's lasted 2 years, and our DPW superintendent wants to go out and buy a $300,000 used one. A
No, he
new
doesn't
one,
wanna buy a
new
new one. He
one.
wants to buy
Like, I think it would be a lot cheaper to fix the one, even if it needs a new engine and transmission.
No, it's not the problem. The frame is so rusted, you can barely put it on the road.
So we shouldn't have bought it in the first place.
Yeah. So it's, and there's a lot of things like that. Like, we just keep throwing good money after bad.
Yeah, but you gotta point that out so that we can really determine whether you're right or not. It might
Yeah.
be, but it's so easy to look at this and just arbitrarily say, we shouldn't have bought that ambulance, we don't need that ambulance, but we don't know anything about the ambulance. And so, working harder to find out more specific stuff, maybe we can give some really good insights. But it's not like we have this huge budget out really nearly spending. I mean, it's embarrassing that we fail to do anything with our buildings. We don't do it, maybe throw a slap of paint on them occasionally, but really.
If we get good people to run the departments, we get good results.
Yes, we will.
And if they're really serious about their job and they want to do it
Qualified
right,
people.
they will watch out for things like that.
Yeah,
You
but
know
it's
what I mean?
gonna cost money for salaries to
Well-
pay,
I hear you,
like,
Laura. You and I are the same
Yeah.
team on that one.
It's, well, the labor's the biggest expense, because that relates to, yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, 100%. And that's why I feel like the town's gonna have to make that, it's very likely, looking at the numbers, looking at increases, just understanding the market and see what other towns are doing, knowing what our tax rate per thousand compared to some very similar towns with demographics and their tax rate per thousand, valuations. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be a very, logically thinking, it's gonna be a hard budget year to get in within the levy limit and maintain the services that we're accustomed to.
I agree.
like, the valuations is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
I pay $10,000 for property tax between a lot in a home.
Mm.
$9,200 for the house and $800 for the.
Yeah, the values went up, though.
But my house isn't worth that. It's like an
Well,
imaginary number.
then you're,
That's what you think.
If you, I bet you could sell it real quick.
It's now realistic, across from Hardwick Farmers, you know Hardwick Farmers, where it's at Zeppelin Hill, over $1 million. If you ever told me any one of those houses would ever, okay, get $1 million, that's insane to me. Insane. And, you know, Hardwick is struggling, just like, you know, we
Oh,
have
boy.
meetings with them, and we have meetings with Hardwick, OCAM and stuff, as we try to share services and do other things. And they're all in the same situation we're in. And I would tell you, I work at the state level, you know, with all the regional school districts and all of these towns. They are struggling, they're struggling.
Can we, the one recommendation I guess I would have, because this is gonna come up at not only a town meeting, but the election, the dam, right?
Oh,
How
God.
much money is the dam gonna cost? Because we have to consider that
Yeah.
going into the budget. And if we can get an actual
If it
figure,
passes.
I think it would help not only everybody in this room to make a recommendation, but people in town to vote, you know,
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna put it on the ballot.
yeah.
It's on the ballot, but
the question is, but the prices aren't, I don't think,
Well,
exact.
Well, we have the best guesses
Okay.
based upon what the state says. The state's paying for, you know, if we decide to, the state pays for that. If we get, you know, get it rebuilt completely, they pay for that. If we
But-
say, let Swift River go, which is what state really
Mm.
wants us to do, is
Yeah.
take that out, let it go, and,
Mm.
you know, and they create a, whatever, going downhill. Or we can do that. That would be no maintenance.
Right.
If we fix it up, then we have to maintain it, and that means get access to the property, which we might be able to get just from somebody saying, yeah, you can go over our property. Right? So then we get it right away. And then we have to go and mow it, and, what else you figure we have to do? Sam,
Well, there's
you're an old
inspections
man,
and
so
stuff.
we have to.
You have to,
mow it.
you have to do an inspection too
And
every
you have to
few
have it
years.
inspected, that's, yeah, $5,000 or $6,000,
Yeah.
you know, for the engineers to do that. And that's every 2 years, I think, and then you have to maintain the beavers, you can't let them like
Yeah.
take it over. So, yeah,
You have to do that.
and mowing it's gotta be a once-a-week trip up there, I would say all summer.
What about liability?
Well,
Yeah.
there's some that say because it's recreation, you're exempt from liability insurance. Maya doesn't say that. They say if we're maintaining it, we're mowing it, and this and that, we're gonna have to pay some rate in insurance. And they work with us, but then Mr. Kane says you don't have to pay. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure about
There's
it.
a good
He
argument
wants
on both
it. He wants
sides,
the dam.
and the part that you keep bringing up, I'm very concerned about. The state
Yeah.
has the money now.
No.
We also just made a payment arrangement with the federal government for $2.1 billion because the Baker administration made a mistake and
I know
paid
that, I saw that.
unemployment out. So that budget that's out there right now with Healy, that didn't even take into account the repayment of $2.1 billion.
You pay over
So
10 years, I guess.
that fund that Sam and we talked about one time, the state has money in that fund, but I'm afraid that now we're gonna be paying back the federal government. They might leave those funds dry.
And I'm guessing there's not gonna be any waiver from the federal government these days.
They
Doesn't
talked it
sound
down
like
from-
it, no,
Yeah,
for some reason.
3.1 billion originally. It was 2.5 billion with interest, 3.1, and then Healy got it talked down to 2.1 because Charlie Baker paid unemployment out of ARPA money, and he wasn't supposed to.
So is this damn issue gonna be on the ballot? For the
The
town
damn
has
issue,
to
yeah.
decide?
it's
Yes and no.
It's
like
gonna be non-binding.
non-binding,
I wish
right?
it was binding, because then it would be easy for the selectmen.
Well, if the vote is non-meeting, so it's a selectman's decision?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I'd be happy to defer.
Well, I mean, from a financial standpoint, right,
Yeah.
it's landlocked, there's no public right of way.
Unless the
all-
town of Barre purchases a public right of way, you know, and pays whatever.
And with
It's
the,
more work for the
and the town,
DPW.
yeah, the town has to take ownership before the state will improve,
No.
yeah.
We have to. We
Yeah,
have to say
that's,
we
I was
want.
at the
We
meeting.
have to say,
Oh,
yeah, we do.
Uh,
And I think the state is gonna be so frustrated with us, because,
Yeah.
I mean, you have to come to some of these meetings.
Didn't you
It's
say
very
they
long and
stopped
very
taking the
lengthy.
calls?
Pardon me?
Stop emailing.
Yeah, they stopped responding.
They don't even respond to us anymore.
What if the
I
town,
try.
didn't respond to the state, what would occur?
What would occur?
If the-
They would hold our chapter whatever money. and-
Well, they wouldn't, they would move on to, probably take those funds and go to the next round of improvements for other, and then the town misses that opportunity.
There are so many people who do not believe it is a high hazard dam. They just don't believe it. The documents from the state are a bit like this. But then when they said, well, we went back and visited and things had changed.
Much bigger
right?
field.
And if you talk to people who actually were the people who went up there with equipment and removed most of the, the thing is, I mean, you really should go up there.
Oh, I've been up there.
And it's really just so nothing, and you say, I don't know, and then they tell you how many, if there's an inch of water, or if there's 16 inches in 24 hours, it could overflow, but they're saying, you haven't been up there to look at the dam, to the state, you haven't been there. They do a lot of aerial stuff. Now, whether they've really been there or not, because according to, the spillway, because I don't know what the spillway used to be, so the spillway now, if the thing is up to my knees, anywhere, a lot of muck, it's, it's not,
Oh, yeah,
it's
we go-
going in and.
You go hiking up there, off the land trust, the East Quadrant Land Trust property.
Where is it? Where is it?
It's right up, what's the name of that road?
Flaherty.
Flaherty
Flaherty.
Road.
Road.
Yeah.
I do feel bad for the one family that seems to get dragged into it on like the access. You have the East Quadrant Land Trust that has a bunch of land,
The
like,
other
take
side.
the access from them.
Yeah, the other
You know,
side.
it's like, why go after the family who
Yeah.
has the access, but.
Well, because the land trust is, so the town, if the town took ownership, it would just be the dam and the spillway, or is it the land under the water as well?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a whole shooting match. I mean, because the state is leaning toward, they wanna take the dam out completely, let it go, and let it be this very, this benign. I mean, Prince River is not a real rushing torrent.
There's a whole,
Will-
there is a
will they-
movement.
will the-
They're doing it with
I
Quinnipiac
know.
right now, so there's a whole movement throughout the country of
Absolutely.
restoring natural habitats.
You think they'd make a nice walking trail along the Prince
They
River?
will do the whole thing. It's more expensive for the state to do what they wanna do
Mhm.
than it is for them to rip it out, and do repair. They don't wanna repair.
They added the new option of building it back to its original height, like that was even an option, making it bigger, but.
And the people who live near it, are part of who they are and what they
Oh,
have is their community.
yeah, it's a beautiful
and
spot.
People who grew up around there seem to be the ones who come out to the meetings. I would suspect people down on Route 32 don't even know where it is up here.
And have the abutters thought about creating an association?
Well, that's been brought up, I know John's brought that up to them, and I don't know, I think they really would do something like that, don't you? They seem very.
Dan brought that up 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, I grew up on
Yeah.
a lake, and that's what all the abutters did, because it was a privately owned lake. And it went, similar situation, the dam went in disrepair, the owner gave up on the property, and, they ended up forming an association and bought the land, and
They maintained it.
they maintain it, and it's, my father, I forget what it was like $100 a quarter or something, but it would be paid as part of his taxes to the town, and then the town funded it, it funneled through the town. So they managed the funds on behalf of the
But
association.
we know we have to have a decision to the state, because that's why they're not, they keep saying, stop asking us the same question.
Yeah.
We've come out, I don't know, 3 times.
Yeah, I was at one of the first meetings, it was, interesting.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
It's, if the town owned a parcel to provide, like, town-owned property, that to have recreational access, I think that changes the conversation
Well,
a
listen,
little bit.
I believe what you said, the corporate East Land Trust, certainly, this would be right up their alley.
Mhm.
And they don't wanna get involved with the dam issue, right?
One-
I don't know.
Has the state come out and said that if you don't do this by date certain, we're going to stop doing something else?
I'm sure that's
Or have
gonna
they
come.
just- They've just denied the communication, right?
I have not, I put in a call in an
You
email, I have
reached
not.
out,
I
and they
reached
don't
out,
even know
yes.
who you are.
Well, they know who
Well,
we
they
are,
know who
we
I
have
am.
the answer.
No,
They-
no,
they
but what
really
I'm
know.
saying, I'm just saying that, they don't know.
My guess is they're waiting for it, like,
Yes,
they
they
want a
are.
decision,
They
and
want
if
something
it's,
definitive.
at some point, they're gonna
But they haven't
move on.
said, if you don't do this by a certain date, we're gonna hold up certain funds. They haven't said this.
No, they haven't given us a date certain, but they have made it quite clear that we have been chosen as this part of this particular group of dams across the state that they have identified as being in this first batch. And so everybody else, you know, has done something that pretty much they're moving forward. We have been pretty slow on the uptake from their perspective. We keep on saying, oh, give us a hydrologist, because we know this is our well, so they keep on throwing all this stuff to the state, and the state says, we're not gonna do that. We've done what we've done, we think it's a high hazard dam, we do disagree with that, but, you know, they're willing to send it back to its original whatever, and, some people are very much adamant, they would like to have that, but they're the people who show up most are the ones who, you know, have been, that's been part of their life, growing up and everything, or they have what they view as almost waterfront property, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't envy their position by any means. I mean, it's a nice spot. I mean, we go up hiking up there a couple times. I mean, I enjoy it up
Yeah,
there
it's
myself.
a nice spot.
Tons of people are ice fishing up there right now. Like,
Yeah.
well, not right this second, but,
Yeah, I don't know how much the fishing population might be there.
I think there's a lot of fish in it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
I was told by someone in the government in Boston, I know someone, and he said, throw the letter away until they tell you what they're going to do if you don't pay attention. That's what his response was.
My fear with that is you get the federal government holding money hostage to all the states. The states has this money in a fund to remove it or fix it.
Yeah.
When the federal money dries up, they're just gonna take the money they have access to
federal
now and
money-
spend it
nowadays,
elsewhere.
if you listen to what's happening, the federal money may dry up.
Yeah.
It may have dried up today.
It might have dried up just now.
Yeah, so my fear is the state will then take the money they have set aside to deal with the dam
Yeah.
and then spend it on places that they
right.
need to spend it, and then,
We'll have to pay to take it
Yeah.
down. Whereas
Or
if we
or
go
we
for that,
might be-
they'll pay for taking it
If
down.
they believed that benign neglect would be safe, I'd be right over there. But I'm just not sure. If you read
Yeah,
the
no.
engineering report, it says it's a high hazard dam.
Yeah.
So you're saying,
Well, you don't want a situation like what happened up in New York a few years back with those floods, or even down like Asheville more
Right.
recently.
Vermont, there.
You know, you get some of these
Take the dam
small
out.
spillways
Take the damn
that
dam.
blow
Yeah.
out, and
Yep.
it takes one of those 1,000-year storms to do it, but you don't want to be on the other side of that.
I keep hearing an
1,000
argument
years.
that the Save the Dam folks have, that it would have to rain 16 inches.
in 24 hours.
But what they're not taking into consideration, it's being fed by a stream.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to rain 16 inches here, it's gonna rain 16 inches over the land, which
And
feeds
what's
the
feeding
stream.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
Has anyone written a letter to all the abutters, including Quabbin,
East Quabbin,
East Quabbin Land Trust, and said, we came up with a plan and we'd like you all to get together and develop some sort of a community process where you all would own a certain amount and you would need to pay a certain amount. And you have, I guess, an internal organization, or an HOA, I guess.
But
That's the association.
could the town do that? We don't know.
Now, has anyone from the land trust attended any of the meetings, or
Well,
maybe?
the land trust wants no part of it. Nobody wants any part of, this dam situation, because everybody says, well, we don't wanna own it because if they're right, if the state engineers are right, we've taken a hazardous dam and ignored that and just whatever, so. Nobody, if East Quabbin Land Trust would probably give us the right of way, but they have no interest in owning any more of it at all.
We asked the DPW to give an estimate on what it would take to maintain that dam, if they have to build a road into it, and
See, I think that would
cut the
all-
grass
that would
every
all happen.
week.
The state
And
would do that, because they have to have a construction road. and
They have to
easement.
access it anyways.
So they have to access it, and part of their thing would be to access it so it could be maintained. So they will do that. And they will take the land from whomever owns it if they had to. And so that will be done as part of that project.
So then the
Unless they
maintenance
do-
is only to cut grass or,
Yeah.
Cut grass or whatever.
fix the dam.
Pick up trash.
Fix-
Whatever testing needs to be
Has the
done.
hydrologist been
Oh, yeah.
I was
brought in
at,
by the
6 times.
state?
I was at a water commission meeting, Maureen was at the water commission meeting, and a gentleman asked that question. And the chair of the water commission answered by basically saying, we wouldn't waste the money. He didn't believe something that many miles away feeds our,
Right.
our,
Well, the aquifer is a few hundred feet below the
Below,
ground.
well,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
But, who knows?
yeah, you never know.
Who
And
knows?
Bob Kane, he at a meeting mentioned that there's a process at UMass where hydrologists can come in at no cost to the
Well,
town.
that's with his students, but maybe in the summer, so there's no commitment from him.
No, right, there's no commitment, but there's a thought
Yeah.
that
I don't know if the state's gonna wait for us to get UMass out here this
Yeah,
summer and say, yeah.
we're not gonna solve it here tonight, I can tell you
Maureen, is
that.
that, is that report available?
No, oh, sure, yeah.
It's online?
What
I
we'd
can
probably
look
say
it
to
up.
you- we say to you, well, I don't know if it's even online, do you think so?
I think, yeah, it should be online. I'll check with
What's
Steve.
online?
Check
That-
on
that-
the,
Yeah, it should be
the report-
online,
the report
when they
about
did the
dam,
on the
it's gotta
website,
be-
on
Yeah.
our town website.
Yeah, got it.
Oh,
So because it's going to a non-binding ballot, there's gonna be nothing on a special town meeting, so I'm not
Well,
even,
we'll probably have some public hearings before it to try to
Yeah.
explain, we'll put out a voter's advisory about what it means. And I do not, I mean, I don't get a phone call from anybody, anywhere about this, except for the people who come on a religious basis. We're gonna have a discussion about it, we're gonna have, people to come. We've had somebody come and talk about what it would be like to take the dam out and to, and they've given us some places we can visit where they've done this and how much happier everybody is about that. And they talk about what trout are back and what ones aren't. There's not that much water that's consistently going through there. It's not, I mean, the Prince River is pretty slow going,
Oh, yeah.
except for certain times in a very rainy summer or whatever. It's pretty slow going. You get a big thunderstorm sometime and you'll see it bubbling up there around IGA and, by your, Gary
Can I-
Patch, but.
Can I make a suggestion that all the butters get contacted and ask them whether they should meet together and decide about an HOA or something similar to it, and see what the response is, and give them a date certain where they have to come back and respond, and come back to one of these meetings and say, all 10 of us have gotten together and we thought we might want to spend $75 a quarter to preserve what we have.
we could.
That's a
I-
good idea.
It's probably outside the scope of this committee.
Yeah.
Because there's been no, I mean, we're talking about it, potential financial
No, but
impact,
we
but.
can do it, we can somehow come to the conclusion that that might be an idea. Maybe nobody's thought about that. I thought, that's,
The problem is,
You thought-
the county bag isn't on.
You thought about that?
Yeah, well,
you could take ownership of
We
it
could.
with
That's
that.
what we're all saying, do we wanna take ownership?
That is
I
even
don't think
a
you do.
cost,
You
like
tell
for you to take
public
ownership
it's
of
gonna
it, you
cost
have to
them
pay
money.
legal
Yeah.
fees and.
and that's a true understanding for the finance committee perspective is, what's the capital expense
Right, right.
for the town, right, up front, if, for anything, because the town has to take ownership before the state will do anything. So there's gonna be a CapEx, whether it's treasury fees, court fees, whatever it is. And then you're gonna have, once the ownership comes in, what's the recurring annual expense for maintenance?
Right.
And so those are the things that this committee would be interested in knowing and, putting that in layman's terms for the town. But we don't have any of that information.
So right now, non-binding question, a yes vote to save it, there would be a warrant article trying to fund it. And a no vote to remove it, there would probably be no warrant
Well,
article.
there'd be a warrant article maybe in the annual town meeting.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
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 If it went, because it would be non-binding, so, then then it would be an interesting town meeting, because you know how that town meetings go.
Yeah.
Depending on who needs the money the most, you know who's gonna be at the meeting, right?
All right, was there anything else to discuss, or are we ready to adjourn and meet again on the 11th of February?
I think we're okay.
I,
Got a question?
Make a motion?
I make a motion to close the finance committee meeting.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
You wanna send me that language?
Yes, I will. I will.